Hello, 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 and welcome to my podcast. This is your boy Carl E. Long from Let's Talk with Carl E. Long, and we have a bonus episode. This is a bonus episode to my episode 15 when I get news that really just works with me, works with my emotions and what I'm feeling, what I'm thinking. I have to talk. So I decided to give a bonus on this one. And this particular subject is about all of the firings and the laying offs, the Department of Education. Those two things have been in the news here, and it's been kind of taxing on me emotionally because I'm the kind of person that I feel for people. Republicans, Republicans are very selfish people. I'll just say that like that. I can't say that globally, like every Republican is selfish, but I should say their motives are very selfish. They don't really care about their fellow man as much. It's all about making money in that capitalistic view of America. And Democrats are not like that. And we're kind of soft and squishy, and we care about people and what's going on. And that is a good definition of who I am as a person. So just hearing some of the stuff that I've been reading on social media as I start this podcast, you have to be able to deal with the good and the bad comments, and when you out there, when you put yourself out there, you got to be able to just take it. And I can take it. And I can have a reasonable conversation with anyone. But some of these MAGA people, oh my God, they can be quite daunting and quite horrible, some of the things that they'll say. But I digress. I just move on. I move on. So one of the things that is really been bothering me is the Department of Education, watching the confirmation hearings of the Department of Education secretary and watching how they are just cavalierly just going through the motions of this, and they just want to get rid of it just because they just want to get rid of it because they feel like everything should go back to the states. That's what they want to do. And do you know what terrifies a black person more than anything? An African American person is you presenting anything back to the states. Back to the states. Let's just talk about that for 1 minute. If we left everything back to the states, would Brown versus Board of Education ever happened? No, because the reason it happened is because the states wouldn't allow a little black girl to go to school. Do you understand that? If we left everything to the states, would Jim Crow even be gone? It would still be here. If we left everything to the states, interracial marriage would still be illegal, right? If we left everything to the states, would we have boycotted the buses? Would we ride in the buses? Would we still be in the back of the buses? Do you understand what I mean? So the federal government has always been our protectorate. Be that as it may, it has. Without the federal government, we would not have any of the liberties that we have right now as African American, black Americans in this country. And the idea that you say everything is equal, send it back to the states, scares the hell out of black Americans. Yes, it does. Because you can send some things back to the states right now. Look at what they did when they sent the abortion back to the states. They don't care about what happens to women. They don't care. We've seen that. I live in the state of Texas where they're trying to make it illegal if a woman goes to another state that has abortion rights and make that a criminal activity. Do you understand what I'm saying? So it terrifies me as a black person to know that they want to send the Department of Education back to the states. Back to the states. And states like Mississippi, some of these red states, they're always in the talking game. But you have the worst education of ever, Mississippi. Shut up. You haven't done anything with the states, with the federal government or anything. What is going on there? Do you know what I mean? So everybody is in my comments saying that it needs to go back. It's just a waste. No, it's not. It's not a waste. It is an overreach over the states to do the right thing. And all y'all keep telling us, black people, everything is okay. Everything is equal now. We don't need all this DEI and affirmative action because people are doing the right thing. And for the most part, there are some great people out there. And I don't want to disgust or discourage anybody from thinking that I believe that it's not. But there are also a whole lot of people with those same old racist views, people. Until you've lived in our skin, you don't know what we're talking about. And we try to understand and try to move away from this. Because some of our people have decided that, this pulls us down when we keep doing that. But what else are we to do? What else are we to do? The federal government has been our protectorate in these cases. And unless you live in a blue state who has progressive values, and you live in a red state like I do, it's a scary thing. It's a scary thing. Try going to live in Arkansas, where they're mandating teaching Christian values, Bible, all kinds of things. Is there anybody else in the state, Arkansas, that may not be Christian? We have Muslims. We have Jews. We have other people. Do you see what I'm saying? If it is not the white Anglo-Saxon way, and I'm going to say the white male Anglo-Saxon way, then it is wrong. Do you understand what I'm saying? And if anybody can understand the way that we feel, you understand what I mean when you dismantle agencies like this. It is really frightening, and it telling of where our Anglo brothers and sisters are. They don't care anything about us. They never have. They don't care about what happens to our children. All the Head Start programs that the kids get, all the food assistance that the kids get, all the programs, and making sure that they're able to get some grants and government things to go to school. They don't care. They don't care about that. And that alarms me. It saddens me. It saddens me. And I come to this, and I know that I'm going to have people in my comments saying that I'm racist. I'm racist. No, I'm not. Not at all. Not at all. And I'm not going to say the thing like that most of you will say, well, I got white friends. No, I'm just not racist. That's it. Not. But I know what's between right and what's wrong. So let me just show you what the Department of Education, why it was created, just to give you a little bit of the history on the Department of Education right here. So let's see. The Department of Education, why was it created? The U.S. Department of Education was created to ensure access to quality education for all Americans and to promote student achievement. It oversees the federal education funding, collects data on schools, enforces federal education laws, and ensures equal access to education. When was it created? All right. It was created. I didn't realize it was this late. It was created by Department of Education October 17th, 1979. By President Jimmy Carter, signed the Department of Education into law. It used to be Health, Human Education, and Service. I remember that. It was all in one deal. So why was it created? Centralized federal role to provide a more centralized role in coordinating education policies and programs across the nation. All right. Focus on equal opportunity. If y'all do right, we wouldn't need this. To address disparities in education and enforce federal laws prohibiting discrimination. If you did right, this agency wouldn't be there. That's the reason. All right. Improvement of education standards. To improve the quality of education by supporting research, data collections, and innovations. Right. Streamlining responsibilities to separate education-related functions from Department of Health, Education, and Welfare, which previously handled. So it was a combined agency. And now I remember. And then the Department of Education was separated in 1979. I did not realize it was that long ago. But it was. So the key responsibilities, it administers federal student loans, grants, Pell Grants, e.g. Pell Grants, collects and reports data about the nation's schools, let you know how we rank and things of that nature. They don't want to see that because some of those red states know they're doing bad. All right. ensures compliance with federal education laws like Title 10, 12, and Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, IDEA. Yes, I think that's Title 11. Title 11 promotes educational innovation and research. Although its creation was controversial, its mission was to elevate the importance of education in federal policy. Before its creation, I asked this question: what part did the federal government have influence or overreach? So before the U.S. Department of Education was established in 1979, the federal government had a limited but growing role in education, primarily focused on funding, civil rights, enforcement, and research. To make it fair, all right? The Constitution does not explicitly grant authority over education to the federal government, so education historically was left to the state and local governments. However, over time, federal influence expanded through key laws and programs. Federal influence before the Department of Education. Before that we had the Land and the Infrastructure Development, Land Ordinance of 1785 and Northwest Ordinance of 1787. These set aside land for public schools in new territories, emphasizing the federal government's early interest in supporting public education. And then there was the Morrill Act of 1862, which provided federal land grants to states to establish colleges and universities, particularly in agricultural and mechanics, now known as land grant colleges, okay? And then in 1867, the first iteration of a federal education office was established, precursor to the Department of Education, but its role was limited to collecting statistics and promoting education without any authority over schools, all right? So then comes the civil rights and desegregation. Brown versus Board of Education, 1954. The federal government, through the Supreme Court, declared segregation in public schools unconstitutional. Right. We had to get the feds to do that. Civil Rights Act of 1964 tied federal funding to compliance with anti-discrimination laws, increasing federal oversight in schools. Elementary and secondary education. Passed during President Lyndon B. Johnson's War on Poverty, this law provided federal funding to schools serving low-income students, marking a significant increase in federal involvement in education. Okay? In education. And then there's the Sputnik and National Defense Education Act of 1958. Prompted by the Soviet Union's launch of Sputnik, the federal government invested in science, math, and foreign language education to strengthen national defense and global initiatives. Now, critics have argued that federal government, such as tying funds to compliance with federal laws, infringe on state and local control of education. The establishments of programs like ESEA and federal desegregation mandates led to debates over federal overreach, as education was traditionally a state responsibility. Okay, so we know that it was a state responsibility, but the states did horribly at it. The red states particularly. I was surprised. We didn't start going to school with my white brothers and sisters until I was like in the 7th grade. But in some of my friends in blue states, they were doing it like way before we were, And that was because in the South, it wasn't happening. They didn't care what you did. We were not going to advance, guys. So the Department of Education is very close to our hearts because it did something for us. Now, we are very proud of our historically black colleges and universities. They were created out of this because of separate and equal and Jim Crow laws. But we have grown to have much pride in those institutions. And I've heard people say, well, why you have to have separate institutions? And then that just shows the ignorance of people don't even understand the history of their own country. Because we had to. If we wanted to go to school, we're going to teach ourselves because everybody else wasn't going to help us. We as African Americans are so tired of fighting these fights. We're so tired of it. And to see this coming back here now in 2020, 2025, in 2025, we are still fighting these fights is so disheartening. It's disappointing. And believe it or not, it is masked. The racism has a new face, guys. It has a new face that smiles in your face and acts like they really care about you, but they really don't. They really don't. So, that's my story. And I just wanted to talk a little bit about the education thing. And that's just my little extra deal that I wanted to talk to you about, because I need for all of you, everybody, anybody, not just all of my brothers and sisters, people of color. Hispanics didn't have to go to this. They could go to schools. Asians could go to schools as white. We couldn't. Do you understand that? So dismantling of this agency is frightening, because I feel for people like me in red states of what they're going to do. I mean, Texas is already coming up with some voucher system that's going to definitely end up hurting the black community, because we're not going to be able to afford what they're offering. And I'm feeling really bad about it. So that's probably going to happen. They've been wanting to do it for a long time. Oh, and the other part of dismantling the Department of Education is white guilt. All this banning of books. We, as African Americans, are still learning about things we never knew about. I didn't learn about Tulsa until recently. We're learning all kinds of things. We're learning people that have invented things. We're learning that cities that were put in the midst of public domain for freeways, we're learning that whenever we started cities, they would come up with a way to realign the city so that a freeway would go through. We're learning all this stuff through education. Through education. It is so much that our people don't know about our history because you guys have made us or not allowed us to teach it. So now you're running scared because we're learning all this stuff. Every time we try to pull up our bootstraps, as you say, and do it for yourself, you do something to knock us down. Tulsa. And there's so many other Tulsas out there. Whenever we become successful, and I'm not talking yesterday, I'm talking this stuff is still happening. So, why are we so vocal about education? That's why. You think that critical race theory is going to be taught in your schools? It's not. But I believe that every American needs to know about American history. We are Americans, and our history is your history. And I'm sorry you have to be forced down your throat in the 1 month a year. That's the only time we get to celebrate it. So education is key. That's why black women are the most educated group in America. The most, by percentages. They are. Because we were not afforded education. And if black people can get the education, we're going to get it. We have to be 10 times better than anybody. So, dear Mr. Trump and Mr. Elon, y'all are going after the Department of Education like it's waste. It's not. It's because it's tethered to black people. And we're not dumb. And all of you that are coming into my comments on the podcast, which you're welcome to, because I'm out here. I'm trying to be a public figure. I'm just going to tell you right now. You come at me correct. If you got the history, let's talk. Let's have a conversation. Because until we sit down and talk this stuff out, and you put down the guilt card, we have a bad past in America. We do. And there's nothing we can do about it. We're here together. We've cohabitated together for a long time. Neither one of us are going anywhere. So we might as well sit down and talk and figure this thing out. All right, guys. So that's my bonus episode here. Yeah, I'll make this episode 15B of Let's Talk with Carl E. Long. I just had to get this off my chest, and I hope you understand the meaning behind what I say. It's not selfish. It's not malicious. It's just trying to get you to understand the mind and the heart of a black person. And why you telling us to send it back to the States pretty much says you don't care about black people. I wish you would do the right thing, then we don't care. Then send it back to the States. This wouldn't even be an issue. Okay. All right. So that's it. So thank you so much for joining Let's Talk with Carl E. Long, my podcast. I'm enjoying the conversation. Join in the conversation. Let's talk. Let's figure this thing out. So thank you so much. And you have a wonderful evening and a good day. Bye now.